Hello, welcome to Movie Summaries. Today we are summarizing a 2016 mystery thriller movie called The Whole Truth. Fair warning, there are spoilers in this summary. Enjoy, and be sure to subscribe to watch more videos weekly, and hit like. Richard Ramsey is a defense attorney who has been handed probably the most difficult case of his career. He has to defend a 17-year-old, Mike Lassiter, suspected of murdering his wealthy lawyer father, Boone Lassiter. On the first trial, prosecutor LeBlanc rises to give an opening statement. A young lawyer and Richard's potential associate, Janelle Brady, walks inside the courtroom. She quietly sits on the last row and watches the trial. The prosecutor starts by telling the jury that the case is simple, because Mike has already confessed to killing his father. Therefore, he asks for the verdict of guilty for first-degree murder. When it is Richard's turn to open, he asks Mike to tell him the whole truth, but Mike stays quiet. Richard requests the prosecution to present the case first, since he has no opening statement. The prosecutor continues and brings out his first witness, Angela Morley, the flight attendant on the private flight that Boone and Mike boarded some days before Boone's death. The flight attendant explains that they flew to LA and back with Mike, and then a round trip to Dallas. The flight to Dallas was for business, and the one they took to LA was to look at colleges for Mike. A flashback from the flight shows us that Mike wanted to go to Reed College, but his father insisted he go to Stanford because he said so. According to the flight attendant, the trip home was tense because Mike, like a typical teen, had an attitude. Following that, Richard asks her questions, trying to prove that Boone was a womanizer. He wants to degrade Boone's character, but the flight attendant bluntly denies the claims. However, a flashback shows us Boone flying on a jet with a woman much younger than him. Next, the prosecutor brings the second witness, the driver, who picked up Boone and Mike from the airport. He remembers picking up a woman for Boone, but doesn't tell the court about it. After the hearing, Richard is approached by Janelle Brady. He takes her interview and appoints her as his associate. Janelle is young and talented, and has just left a career in corporate law, because it was not her thing. If only some of us could do that. Richard brings her as his associate to the next part of the hearing. Following that, the first police officer to witness the crime scene is brought to testify. She explains the crime from her point of view. A flashback shows us the police officer arriving at Boone's mansion. Mike's mother, Loretta Lassiter, answers the door and takes her where Boone's dead body is on the floor, with Mike sitting beside him. Soon, Richard also arrives at the house, and the investigation starts. Mike mutters that he should have done this a long time ago, making it evident that he is in fact the killer. The judge then asks Richard if he wants to question the witness, but he says that he doesn't. The case is clearly slipping out of his hands, and the hearing is dismissed for the day. Outside, Richard asks Janelle to go to a hotel room, where he has gathered all the files containing the details of the case. Janelle goes to the said room and sees that it is trashed with files and pictures. Following that, Richard narrates he doesn't actually need Janelle's help to win the case, but being a colored woman, her being on his side will make Mike look like less of a spoiled brat or a sociopath. The next day, at the hearing, Boone's neighbor is brought as a witness. When asked about Mike's relationship with his father, he claims that they were close when Mike was a kid, but as he grew up, they started getting distant. He also tells them about the backyard incident that supposedly made their relationship worse. Some months ago, the Lassiters were having a backyard party when Loretta talked over Boone while he was chatting to his friends. In retaliation, he made her look like a fool in front of everyone. Talk about being a gentleman. As he was insulting her, Mike stood up for his mother. A clearly enraged Boone took Mike aside and said something to him. The neighbor states that he doesn't know exactly what the father said to his son, but he could see that it affected Mike. The judge asks Richard if he wants to question the witness, but he declines yet again. For the first time, Mike looks at Richard in frustration, seeing that he has given up on him. During the break between the hearings, Richard confidently tells Janelle that they should lose for the rest of the day to win the following day. Then, the lead detective of the case is questioned about his first-hand experience. He, too, claims that the handprint on the knife matches Mike's, and since Mike didn't say anything at all during the questioning after the incident, they have no reason to believe otherwise. A forensic doctor states that the only hair and fingerprints found at the scene were that of Mike and his mother. There was no other suspicious evidence found. However, a flashback shows us that the forensic team picked up a lot of hair from the sink, but none from the bathroom drain, even though Loretta swears that she was showering in the bathroom at the time of the event. Following that, Mike's old friend and neighbor Alex is questioned. He clearly remembers Boone being abusive to Loretta several times. At night, he would see Boone hitting her on the balcony. When the prosecutor asks him if he had seen such events, Alex doesn't go in depth and just states that Boone was very rude to her. Loretta is nervous because the following day she will be called to testify by the prosecution. She asks Richard if she can avoid it, but it will look bad on their side. And if she's called to the witness box, the jury might think their questioning is revised. The day the backyard incident took place, Richard was also present at the party. After Loretta was yelled at by her husband, where Richard approached her to make sure she is alright. She had told him that once, she brought up a conversation about divorce to Boone, but he threatened to kill her. Janelle and Richard returned to the hotel room and discussed the case. Janelle thinks that it is weird that the chief detective didn't take into account the possibility of someone else being the murderer and didn't pursue any other leads. But Richard dismisses it, declaring that he already had a confession, so he didn't take all the measures. Even though it was a mistake on the detective's behalf, Richard didn't call him out during the trial because he deliberately wanted to lose for the day. The following day, Loretta testifies at the court. The prosecutor asks her to describe the day of the murder. She says that she was alone at home, an hour before it happened. Mike was supposed to be at the football practice, while Boone was returning home from the trip to Dallas. When Boone came back, she was just done exercising. She shares that the two exchanged some words before she went to shower. The prosecutor asks her what they talked about. She says that her husband said some vile things to her, but refuses to reveal what they exactly talked about. She gets emotional and cries at the thought of that day. The judge accepts the answer and asks her to keep going. When she returned from the shower, she saw Boone lying limp on their bedroom floor. Mike was at the door, and the first thing he said to her was, "I did it." After that statement, there is no way Richard can prove that Mike didn't kill his father. It is now Richard's turn to question Loretta. He asks her if she was ever physically abused by her husband. Loretta admits he did, and the last time he did was the day he died. This adds a new dimension to the case, because now Mike's action can be justified as him trying to protect his mother. The prosecutor demands evidence of the abuse. This is when Richard pulls out his bingo card and shows them pictures of bruises all over Loretta's body. In the reports that say the pictures were taken after her husband's death, he has now painted the case as a defense against abuse. Before leaving for a day, a policeman hands Richard a paper on behalf of Mike. It says that Mike is planning to talk directly during the trial the next day. He runs to the prison cell to meet him and asks him what is going on in his head. According to Richard, the lawyer never puts a witness on the stand unless he knows what they are going to say. However, even while being yelled at, Mike doesn't utter a word. Mind you, he has spoken a total of 3 words till now. Richard has no way to know what Mike would say, and no way to prepare for it. Loretta starts to freak out, and even lashes out at Janelle. She is worried about her son, but cannot stop him from testifying, because it is his constitutional right. The next day, the judge gives Richard an opportunity to come forward with his opening statement, since he didn't give one when the hearing started. Richard, however, requests he give the statement after Mike's testimony, since he has no idea what the guy is about to say. Mike is then asked to introduce himself. When being questioned why he hasn't talked since the day of his father's death, he simply says that he doesn't know. He also adds that he wanted to reveal the truth about what kind of person his father was. Richard asks him if Boone used to abuse Loretta, to which the kid says that he heard noises from their bedroom, but has never seen it. On the day of his death, Mike returned home early. As Richard is about to ask him another question, Mike cuts him off and says he didn't kill Boone because he abused his mother. Everyone in the court is left stunned. They wait eagerly for him to explain himself. Aren't we all a little curious? Mike finally reveals that his father had been sexually abusing him his entire life. It started when he was 12 years old and went on for about a few years. For a couple of months before they went on the last trip, he had stopped doing it. However, he knew that after Mike went to college, he wouldn't hold that power over him anymore. Hence, Boone asked the flight attendant to let down the privacy door and assaulted Mike. Following that, he also warned Mike that when they get home, he will do it again. Mike was furious at his father the entire time, so when he returned, he killed him. After the trial, the guy informs Richard that the prosecutor is about to bring in the flight attendant again to cross-question her. Since Richard was hard on her the first time, he is sure she will not cooperate with him. Lesson learned. So instead, he asked Janelle to question her. The following day, the flight attendant is brought back and questioned by the prosecutor. She agrees that there is a privacy door in every plane that can be closed at the passenger's request, but claims that the door was never closed on Mike's last flight. She also adds that she could see them throughout the flight, and is certain that Boone didn't molest his son. It is now Janelle's turn to present. She is clearly nervous, and not as confident as the other lawyers. She asks the flight attendant several questions about her schedule, and makes her disclose that she was very busy during the week Mike and Boone took the flight. Janelle makes a point by saying that the attendant might have dozed off during the flight. However, the attendant proves the accusation wrong, saying that she carries medicines to help her not fall asleep. Janelle then cross-questions her about her relationship with the pilot that was flying the plane. It turns out that the flight attendant and he are dating. When being questioned if she was in the cockpit with her boyfriend, she affirms that she might have been there for about 10 to 20 minutes, which is enough for Boone to abuse his son. Janelle asks Richard about the possibility of him making up the abuse story, but Richard dismisses her, claiming that it doesn't matter since they already have the jury's sympathy. Following that, she meets Loretta and bluntly asks her if her son is lying and covering up for someone else's mistake. A flashback of the day shows us Mike walking into his mother by the side of his father's dead body. He says that he did it as Loretta tried to stop him from taking the blame. When the police officer arrives and Loretta goes to receive her, Mike wets his hand with Boone's blood and holds the knife he was stabbed with. In the evening, Janelle brings up the possibility of Mike covering up for his mother, but Richard says that it is none of their business, since Mike is their client, not Loretta. Janelle feels like Richard knows something that he is trying to hide. When she calls out for him, the two get into an argument, and Janelle storms out. The next day is Judgment Day. Both the lawyers passionately give their ending statements. The jury finally comes to a conclusion and declares Mike is not guilty. Mike is taken back to prison to get his belongings. When they are out, Richard and Loretta finally hug, celebrating the victory. Mike returns to Richard's room later and hands him a paper that has a drawing of a watch on it. He then accuses Richard of killing his father. No one saw that coming. It is revealed that Mike had seen Richard's watch under the bed at the crime scene, even before he came in. An angered Mike attacks Richard and blurts out that he lied about being assaulted to save his mother, thinking it was she who killed Boone. So, to recap, Mike didn't kill Boone, and Loretta didn't kill Boone. Richard calms the kid down and sends him back to his mother. While returning home, Richard recalls the true events that happened on the day of the murder. Boone had met Richard and told him that Loretta is having an affair with someone. When Richard suggests he divorce her, Boone implied that he would rather kill her. Richard then informed Loretta about the conversation, and the two decided to kill Boone to end his abuse once and for all. That day, Richard was in Boone's room when he came in, and he was the one who stabbed him. They had planned to present the case as self-defense on Loretta's part, but Mike came home early and confessed to the crime before they could arrange the evidence. Dang, I seriously didn't see that coming at the end. Hope you enjoyed our summary. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, and turn on notifications so you can watch more videos weekly. Thanks.